It's Mary, Hard Left Yogi with Flip Your Dog Yoga. This is the Better Handstand tutorial session. If you are just like jumping to this video, there's several tutorials, little mini tutorials in this block. This is prepping you for the class that will follow. Each day the class will be, or each round, the class is the same flow so that you can kind of drop in and get used to it after doing it a couple times. But each day has a different focus, whether it be bandhas or breath or body placement, whatever it is. So this one was about handstands. We've talked about the bandhas and the breath in previous tutorials. I highly recommend you look at the tutorial before doing the class so that you can see what the heck I'm talking about a little deeper, or have kind of a mental mindset for it. All right, so, and by the way, if you have any questions or anything, please put those in the comments below. I really love teaching. So anyway, because I'm trying to teach so in depth, you know, I'm keeping my little notepad close. So when you're doing handstands, there's a lot of things that are important, you know, placement of the body, the breath, what your mind is doing. I want to talk about, we talked about the bandhas and stuff. I do want to talk about like hand placement and understanding your hands in a handstand practice. So there'll be a whole little session that has to do with like hands and like what the elbows and stuff are doing. So one of the things that we discuss in a yoga practice is like spiraling of arms and legs, right? So you can see how like goddess pose would be a spiral out, right? Or a warrior 2 would be a spiral out, whereas a warrior 1 would be a spiral in, right? You can see that, right? So one of the things that happens for people when you go into handstand isn't necessarily that you're not strong enough, it's just really that you're not getting proper alignment for handstands. We will do a class where we really work for our wrist and we really work plank and look for that alignment. Ultimately, your bones can hold you up. Like, that's the reason these little forearm balances and all these Cirque du Soleil poses are so applicable, is because just these little bones of my arm, of my forearm, can hold my whole body weight up, right? So it becomes about alignment. When you're looking at a yoga practice and placement of the hands and the arms and what we're looking for our forearms, no matter what inversion we're doing, whether it be plank pose, whether it be even starting with our crescent twist, right? We're still looking for this perpendicular, completely straight up and down, upright, perpendicular arm. So my elbows aren't out, that's not perpendicular or parallel. They're not forward. Let me turn sideways. So they're not forward, that wouldn't be parallel or it might be parallel to one another, but not perpendicular to the floor, right? I also don't want the arms rotating so much forward, because then look, this isn't even a straight arm, that's like a hyperextended elbow, right? That's a straight arm. So what we're looking for, the best way to do it is, if you're new, putting the index finger at 12 o'clock where the index fingers make 11s or parallel to the sides of your mat will enable people who don't naturally lock out their elbow to keep their elbows in and not from doing this like bow out thing, even when you're doing your chaturangas and stuff, right? If you're more open in the shoulders, or you hyperextend, you have those like elbows that like we call it the eyeball of the elbow rotates completely forward when you're in plank. You want your middle finger straight forward, because that will keep those elbows, inner elbows, back a little bit. When we're looking at this space, I'll do it with, I don't have my list on my hand, right? When we're looking at this space in your arm, you know, where you would get an IV at, that space lines up with your thumb. So If my thumb is going at an angle because my index finger or my middle finger is forward, I don't want that space lining up with these two fingers. I want this space kind of angled towards my thumb. So, and you can see that really nicely, typically for most people when you're in down dog. Some people, when they're in down dog, their elbows go out so that that little IV space is actually now pointing back towards their feet rather than at the angle of their thumb, right? When you do that, that will allow you to, because that's the same alignment through all of your poses. Notice that didn't shift around a whole lot. It might roll around a little bit just because you're transferring and moving, but for the most part, it'll stay almost at like a little cross, right? So we've got index fingers forward for those of you who really do the elbows out. Middle fingers forward for those of you who are strong and open in the shoulders or have the tendency to hyperextend the arms. All right, hands are directly under shoulders, so we're still looking for that perpendicular arm. And if you're doing this class that has to do with arm and hand placement, I'll be cueing that even in your warrior ones, right? Even in your crescent twists. We're going to really look for this straight alignment, right? And we're also going to work flexing the fingers back. So when I say flexing the fingers back, it's almost like putting your hand out like a stop, right? So you really want to pull those fingers back because why? Because we're about to do handstands on them, right? So when you're looking at your practice throughout the class, how much can you control where your elbows are? So even when you're standing in mountain pose, we've got this elbow forward and the thumbs are in line with those elbows, right? All right, so that is hand placement and what we're looking for as far as forearms and elbows, not only in our yoga practice, but when we get into the handstand part of the practice. I hope that helps. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please subscribe, give us a like, really helps, thumbs up, people, thumbs up. And if you have questions, please ask because I love to teach and someone else wants to know the answer. So we'll see you soon, guys. Thanks.